So, as a quick message that I wanted to tell everyone out there, I'm just going to say that if this video is a little bit half-assed, I'm just going to say that I apologize. I'm just going to be explaining what's been going on for the past couple of days. At least if you're familiar with the Discord server, then you should know what's been going on. But if you don't know, essentially I got tested positive for the virus. So, yeah, I actually did tested positive. Like, I did the testing, was like 2 days ago as of right now. I did test it positive, so that kind of sucks, but I'm fine. If I weren't fine, I wouldn't be doing this video to begin with. So, yeah, but yeah, I'm still in the process of recovering, but I'm just going to say that yes, I did test it positive, and yeah, so I apologize if this video is a little bit, on the lower quality spectrum, but I wanted to at least give you guys some insight on how does the Lunar Lancer work as is, in terms of rework. If this is going to be a little bit of a longer video, so be it, because I gotta just explain a lot of things regarding the Lunar Lancer. There's a lot of abilities and there's a lot of changes that's been going on, and there could be more changes added in the future. So yeah, that's going to be it. Now, let's get on with the video. Hello and welcome to another JonNario video. I'm the host JonNario, and today I will be going over the PTS Lunar Lancer rework. So this is going to be pretty much essentially version 1.12 or whatever. So essentially just 2 patch notes after the character launch. It was just essentially a small change, which pretty much turned out to be a pretty big change in reality. And the other one, it was more of a fix, because this character, after the first patch note, it was completely broken. Essentially none of the ability worked except the grapple. The grapple was the only one that was working properly, but aside from that, literally everything else was not working properly. So yeah, essentially the second patch note was to fix literally everything. And even with the fix on literally everything, they still made a little bit of a change, which is going to be this that you're seeing right now on screen. That the grapple doesn't stop whenever you hit an enemy or whenever you hit the block, which actually can create a lot of fun little things that you can do with the Lunar Lancer. I will be using mouse and keyboard, so pardon me if my movement is going to be a little bit rough during all of this explanation, so do keep a note on that one. So yeah. Anyway, so today I'm just going to be going over all of the abilities like usual, and then just going to be doing comparison to what it used to be before and to what it is right now. Everything is subject to change because this is still on the PTS. Everything can change even multiple times, and like I just mentioned multiple times before, usually on Rework we usually get around 3 to 4 changes. So far we've been going, technically we've gotten 1 because the other one was a fix. So yeah, just expect more changes in the future, but probably is the core main mechanics of this character is going to remain the same, so it's best to get used to it. I don't particularly like how the character works without the ultimate ability, but even still it is what it is. So first and foremost, one very important detail that you need to keep in mind, it is going to be the energy regeneration. This character's energy regeneration is 0. The reason being is that they actually got removed completely, similar to the Pirate Captain. The energy is now going to be working exactly the same as the Pirate Captain. The Blunderbuss on the Pirate Captain, what it does is when you attack an enemy with either your basic attack or the other ability, which is Pretend Pirate, you're going to get yourself some coins, as you're seeing right here, and those will regenerate your energy. In the case of the Lunar Lancer, it's just going to be almost exactly the same, but it is going to be tied to lunacy. So the only way that you can regenerate your energy is via attacking with your basic, attacking with your grapple, or attacking with your Lunar Leap. So, and the Lunar Leap, the regular Lunar Leap, and the grapple from the Lunar Leap, all of them will regenerate your energy. That's how you regenerate your energy. Once you reach 100% on that energy bar right here, that's how you're going to transform into the lunar form, which is the old passive ability that transformed you into the big Lunar Lancer. And yeah, essentially you get a new set of ability, new basic attack, more damage, and a bunch of different stats, which I'll explain that in a little bit. But essentially, yeah, that's going to be how the Lunar Lancer is going to end up working. No longer energy regeneration is needed because this character has 0 energy regeneration. The way to generate energy is going to end up being from basic and all the abilities. As you're seeing something right here, like you saw that clone of myself. That's essentially the class gem ability, which I can explain that in a little bit, but yeah, the class gem got changed a little bit, but more importantly, let me just talk about the basic attack. So as you clearly can see, the basic attack got changed a little bit. So before, well, pre-patch, is essentially only this stab animation. You go and keep doing this stab over and over again, and yeah, essentially that is the old basic. But right now it got introduced, the crescent combo. It got introduced with the basic attack after you do 3 stabs. After you do 3 stabs, it does a crescent combo. So the crescent combo does it automatically as the 4th basic attack. So yeah, the crescent combo is slightly slower, so the attacks per second is somewhat slightly slower, but that doesn't make any much difference because the character got a damage increase from 1 times damage multiplier on the live server to 1.8. So 1.8 times damage multiplier is going to be the new damage multiplier on basic without the ult. So yeah, that's going to be pretty nice. Not only that, it got increased range by quite a lot. So let me just, you can hit it from like right here. It's so far away that not even the actual VFX actually is hitting, but you can actually just hit an enemy from this distance. It actually got increased range to around 6 or 7 blocks in distance. It's pretty ridiculous. So yeah, anyway, so the basic attack got increased damage and increase in range. And obviously, since crescent combo is available, it means that it will have increased crowd control because it will hit enemies around it once it does crescent combo. The first 3 hits will not hit around it, just the crescent combo. So yeah, that's essentially going to end up being your new basic attack. It's just alright, but get used to this because you will be using it quite a lot, because obviously crescent combo got removed from the main abilities. So yeah, essentially you are going to be using basic attack for the majority of the time. You are going to be using the other abilities mainly just to do high damage if you can one-shot. If you cannot one-shot with any of these abilities, then it's best not to use them. It's best to just go with basic attack, but it is what it is. Now let's move on to the grapple. So now it's called grapple. It used to be Grappling Spear. Grappling Spear, what it did, it was you threw down a spear and then you press the ability again, and then you did the grapple directly to the spear. It was a 31 block range limit of where you could grapple and throw the spear, and the AoE on the spear dealt 1 times damage, and the grapple AoE dealt 1 times damage. It was essentially that's how it did work out. But how it does work out right now is going to be, if you press the ability, it's just going to essentially do the grapple. So yeah, that is going to be how it does work out. It's just going to remove the spear throwing animation and just directly go immediately into the grapple. The range got increased by a lot, so you can grab from like really far away from like something along those lines as this distance. Like, you can grapple from ridiculously far ranges. It's not even a joke. It is ridiculous. Like, the range is like 60 plus block ranges. It used to be 30, so 60 plus range is really nice. Now, a change that they did with the last update, it actually just makes the grapple just a really fun tool to use. So I'll explain that in a little bit. But first and foremost, damage. The damage got increased from a 1 times damage multiplier from the AoE from the grapple and the spear to a 4 times damage multiplier just from the grapple alone. So if you do hit an enemy from this distance, or the AoE, that you pretty much just saw me being sent flying across the map. It's pretty funny, like, but yeah, that AoE that you saw right there, that does 4 times damage multiplier, so you can one-shot even enemies if we're talking about overtime, which is where I do see this character being useful either way. So yeah, I will probably just say that AoE can one-shot up to world bosses, I do believe. Maybe it can one-shot 3 stars, I don't know. But even still, like, this is not an ability that you're going to be using a lot of time just to one-shot. It's not the same thing with the Lunar Leap. With the Lunar Leap, obviously you're going to be using that to one-shot like crazy. But either way, what the main implication that I will see this ability being used is going to be on the speed momentum that you actually do get. So a change that they did, like I just mentioned before, in the latest patch, which was the hotfix that they did on the Lunar Lancer, they essentially just made that the grapple, it no longer stops where you're actually grappling. So it no longer does something like this. Let me just do this, and it no longer does this. So where you grapple and you stay in the block that you grapple. Right now you get sent flying in the forward momentum, so you essentially just slide around across the map, and this is actually very, very helpful. Well, not very helpful, but very fun to play around with, because you can actually do this to increase your speed momentum. So let me just run around something like this. This is my normal or regular movement speed, which is going to be base 97. Base 97 movement speed, I activate Trailblazing, that's base 117 movement speed, right over here, so that's not too bad. If I activate ally buffs, activate Trailblazing, you know, that's a base of 147 base movement speed, which is not too bad. But if you actually do stuff like this, if you, let's just say you defeat an enemy, activate Trail, and then you grapple, you're going to see that you are moving really, really fast, and it actually does get amplified the more movement speed that you do get. So you can just easily just get increase or stuff like this, especially since you do have double grapple, you can do stuff like this. And so yeah, it actually does increase the speed momentum by a lot, and if you do have the timing, you can actually just jump around like literally everywhere, which is very, very helpful and very, very nice. So you can do stuff like this, just grapple again, you know. It's actually very, very nice and very fun to play around with. I can see some people use this just for speed momentum, and especially if, let's just say, if you're in the higher stats and you're seeing a world boss, let's just imagine that's a world boss, you can just throw stuff like this and just hit an enemy. If my mouse aim wasn't so terrible, but yeah, you can literally just aim directly towards the enemy, hit him, and then just keep moving forward, and just do the same thing with the Lunar Leap Infused, and just again keep moving forward after you defeat an enemy. So yeah, you can do stuff like that, then you can just get increase of speed momentum like crazy. It's a lot of fun to do. Is it going to be very effective? I don't know. I don't have a maxed out Lunar Lancer to test that one out, but as of right now, for the little testing that I did with this Lunar Lancer, it's actually not too bad. It's actually pretty fun to play around with. Now, let's move on to the Lunar Leap, which I've already seen them multiple times. Lunar Leap, what it does is, you press the ability, you jump in the air, you have a slow fall for around, I would probably say around 3 to 4 seconds or something like that. And during that slow fall duration and that aura that you have around it, you have an Lunar Infused Grapple, is what it's called, which essentially is just going to be an empowered version of your regular grapple. It is going to be an own separate ability, so it is going to have a separate cooldown to the regular grapple. So essentially you can have double grapples. In the case of the Lunar Infused one, the Lunar Infused one has some different properties comparable to the regular grapple. First of all, it's going to be the damage. The damage gets increased from the regular grapple to the Lunar Infused grapple from a 4 times damage multiplier to an 8 times damage multiplier. Being an 8 times damage multiplier, it means that it does the same damage multiplier as the Night Spear Squire. Obviously, this is not even considering that the character does have a bonus 30% physical damage by default, bonus percentage damage, which I'll talk about more of that like a lot, because this character does have a lot of bonus percentage damage increase. But yeah, essentially this character having a lot more is easier to actually one-shot than even the Spear Squire, which is not too bad. It's actually really, really nice. The fact that you can do stuff like this and you can just easily just one-shot everything, even at mid-game. So yeah, in the case of the Lunar Lancer, it's actually very, very strong. Now, let's keep moving on with the other thing that you actually do get, and that is going to be the damage increase that you do get alongside the damage that you do. So once you do hit an enemy, you're going to see essentially a buff right over here. This buff will indicate that you do have a damage increase, a bonus damage increase. So allow me to explain bonus percentage damage. So for those who already have familiarized with what is bonus percentage damage, base damage, I have mentioned this so many times on my channel. Heck, I even made a dedicated video regarding all of this. So physical damage is divided for your base damage and your bonus percentage damage. It's the same with magic damage, but bonus percentage damage is going to be a percentage increase from your base damage. So if you are seeing 113% bonuses percentage, it doesn't mean that it's 113% of 16,000 or whatever it might be. It means that it's 113% of 5,948. So if I remove the ally buffs, it says 20%. Well, not the ally buff, the Raptor Berserker. So the Raptor Berserker will tell me that it's at 20% physical damage. That is 20% bonus physical damage. If you're seeing right over here, you can see that my damage went down for, I believe, was 16,000 something like, how much was it? Like 16,470 to 14,924. That's not even 20%, by the way. So yeah, that's not even 2,000 in physical damage difference. So yeah, as you clearly can see, my bonus percentage damage just went from 93% bonus percentage damage to 113. So that is going to be how it does work out. It's the same thing with Mastery. Mastery is going to give you percentage, bonus percentage damage like this one, and stuff like, the Fired Up from the Vanguardian, like the buff from range mode, actually does bonus percentage damage. The Revenant's passive ability is bonus percentage damage. Like, all of those things will increase via bonus percentage damage. The only one that is very different is going to be something like the Ice Age, which is going to be total damage, which floats in the same realm as something like Martial Emblem. So if I actually go into something like this, let me just go into the Knight, because with the Lunar Lance it's a little bit more confusing. But in the case of the Knight, it will tell you that it will increase your normal physical damage by 250%. So if I actually do use a flash, it will say class multiplier plus 150%, because it's 150% plus the regular 100% to 50. So essentially it's going to end up being that. So as you clearly can see, it will tell you class multiplier as a separate thing. That means that it will increase bonus total damage. So yeah, I needed to explain all of that because this Lunar Lancer does have a lot of bonus percentage damage. Actually, it does have two very big ones. So keeping all of this in mind is very, very important. All right. So once you do hit an enemy with the Lunar Leap, you actually do have a bonus increase, a bonus percentage damage increase of plus 85% or plus 85 on your bonuses. So bonus percentage damage will get increased to 85% increase. Not 85% of your bonuses, it's just plus 85 bonus physical damage. So yeah, essentially it's just going to be 85% of your base damage. So essentially you get almost double your base damage as a bonus increase. So it's actually not too bad. That's why like my damage goes from 16,470 to around 23,000. So if it were regular 85% of 16,000, that would have been a way higher than just getting it to 23. Anyways, but yeah, now essentially that's how it does work out with the Lunar Infused Grapple. You do get a bonus 85 to your bonus percentage damage. Alright, hope that all of that made sense, that long explanation. Let's move on. If you didn't understand, I made plenty of videos about it, and I've already just explained this so many times, so it is what it is. Now, the Lunar Infused Grapple, like I just mentioned before, has a separate cooldown to your regular grapple, so it means that you can actually use double grapple. So you can do regular grapple, leap, and second grapple. You can do stuff like that, and you literally can get a lot of speed momentum with all of that, which is very, very nice. So yeah, that's essentially going to end up being your main spammable, you could say, or your main one-shotting ability. So yeah, it is what it is. So the Lunar Lancer, in my own personal opinion, is a lot of fun to play around with double grapple and just jumping around everywhere. But comparable to what it used to be, I would probably still say, in terms of effectiveness, pre-patch is still better than this, and I'll explain why. Crescent Combo is a main spammable ability. Characters that are just catered towards dungeon grinding want a really strong spammable ability. Crescent Combo, while not being the best spammable ability in the entire game, and not even close, but it was still solid enough that if you did have high stats, you could one-shot with the first swing of Crescent Combo. But even still, at lower stats, if you could hit an enemy with 2 swings, and both swings will actually kill even bosses, even 3-star bosses, then it was still very effective. It was more effective than just going like this with the basic attack. So I do feel that it's slightly weaker because it generally lacks a really good spammable ability. And yes, you can technically just use the grapple and just kill an enemy one-shot. Yes, you can use the Lunar Leap and just kill the enemy one-shot. because 8 times damage, 4 times damage respectively, or 4 times damage grapple, 8 times damage lunar infused, is not too bad. And not only that, even if you do not one-shot with the lunar infused grapple, which is just how is 8 times damage, the first hit right here, it does 2.3, so you can actually just essentially just do a 10.3 times damage multiplier with this character, and you can kill enemies really fast. But that does come with a lot of weaknesses. So first and foremost, if you do mess with the grapple, that's it. You generally just get sent flying across the map, and then you have to get really close to the enemy, hit the enemy again. Same thing with the lunar infused grapple. If you do miss, you can actually miss, and there you go. You have to wait the long cooldown. Let's just say you don't crit, that's also another problem. Let's just say also you do lag out and the ability doesn't register. That can happen. Or let's just say you use the ability for speed momentum, like you're doing stuff like this. Then if you do encounter the enemy, you have to wait cooldowns. So it's not the same as a spammable ability where you can hit an enemy, spam the ability, get close to the... Let's just use the example on Spirit Square. Spirit Square on the night is the definition of a spammable ability that is good. You can actually just go. Let's just say that target dummy is a boss. You can actually just kill an enemy, and without any problem, you can just get close to the boss and just do the ability. If it doesn't one-shot, you are spammable. You can go without cooldown and just keep throwing that ability that does 8 times damage. That's certainly a problem that this character generally has, because all the abilities has pretty long cooldown. And then if we move on to the ultimate ability is entirely something different. One of the problems that I did have with the ultimate ability, and I still do have with the ultimate ability, is going to be the amount of time that it takes to actually just regenerate all of your energy. It takes way too long, considering that most of the character can easily just maintain ultimate ability with the chronomatic emblem. Seeing that this is a thing is actually a pretty terrible addition. Now, anyways, now let's move on to the classroom ability before I actually go into the ultimate ability, because you've been seeing like this amalgamation of so many minions just attacking the same enemy, which is pretty hilarious, because this is nowhere near this is nowhere in the patch notes. If you actually do search in the patch notes, there's nothing that says anything regarding the classroom ability or any changes. So yeah, this is something that I actually had to just get the class gem and just read it for myself to see if there was something different. And yes, it is something slightly different. It's still Shadow Dancer, or Shadow Lancer, I should say. So yeah, what essentially it does is going to be basic attack has a chance of spawning a dark shadow version of yourself, you know. And whenever you're in your lunar form, aka your ultimate ability, then your basic attack has a higher chance of triggering, a higher chance of spawning them, you know, more frequently. And yeah, essentially it's going to be almost exactly the same one as on the live server, but the only thing is just that it is a higher chance of actually spawning. The one on the live server is going to be whenever you transform into your lunacy mode, you will spawn 1 minion. And that's it. That minion will attack one enemy at a time, attacking once per second, doing 2.5. So yeah, it's essentially the same thing, but right now it's just going to be tied to your basic attack. The chances seems to be somewhat hit or miss. I probably will say it's around 5% or maybe even less. So I just expect around a 5% chance of actually spawning, and damage is still the same at 2.5. It still targets at one enemy at random, and the maximum minion I do believe is 5. So yeah, it's slightly better than what it used to be on pre-patch, but it still doesn't make it too good. It's still what it is, still what it is. It does help out in DPS though, which is not too bad. And I do believe it does get increase in terms of damage output. If you do get damage increase, it will also do damage increase. So if you do use the Lunar Leap and get more damage increase, they will do more damage as well. Anyways, now let's move on to the Lunar Form. Lunar Form, your ultimate ability. Just before I actually do transform, just keep in mind that this ultimate ability works exactly the same as something like Banshee's Boon. Whenever you activate your ultimate ability, your energy will gradually decrease until it reaches to 0. Once it reaches to 0, you will transform into your regular form. That's essentially how it's going to work out. Once you do transform, you're going to get increased movement speed, which is a plus 30. base movement speed, 50% reduce incoming damage, so you take half your damage, 130% increased damage, which is not true, it's 175 bonus physical damage, by the way, so this is actually not true. And yeah, essentially all of your abilities that you use whenever you're transformed, it will gradually just remove some energy. I do believe all of the abilities take 10 energy except Blessing of the Moon, which takes 25 energy whenever you activate it. So, but essentially it's just going to work out something like this. Now, once you do transform, obviously, like I just mentioned, you're going to get 100 stability, 30 movement speed. You're going to get essentially quadruple your, triple your health regeneration, and you're going to get 175% into bonus physical damage. So yeah, once you do transform, your energy will gradually decrease. This is going to be your new basic attack, and if it does look familiar, that's Crescent Combo. Yes, Crescent Combo essentially just got transfer into your ultimate ability basic attack. And if you saw that the Crescent Combo being so quickly, if you did play this on the first day only, then obviously this was one of the changes that they did, which was the Crescent Combo ultimate ability now is effective via attack speed. So being effective via attack speed, it means that obviously the more attack speed that you do have, the faster it will do. And in terms of attacks per second, I do believe it's around 1 base attacks per second. So it does have a 1 base attacks per second. So at 300%, it means that it will attack at 3 attacks per second. And considering that this basic attack attacks really fast and the damage multiplier is 6.5. So yeah, you essentially are swinging this fast, doing 6.5 times damage multiplier per swing. Or per hit, I should say. That's essentially a beefed up version of the Knight basic attack. And the Knight basic attack is one of the best basic attack, if not arguably the best basic attack if you don't include any buffs, which probably still is because this is technically a buff basic. But either way, this basic attack is pretty ridiculous, I will say. 6.5 times damage multiplier, even at 1 attacks per second, it still hits all enemies around you. I do believe it still stuns. I don't know, I haven't even tested it out completely, so let me just do that test real quick. It seems to stun, as you can clearly see with the yellow VFX on top of the enemy. Yeah, so the basic attack actually does stun. So it does stun, it does 6.5, and yeah, you attack pretty fast. I had to remove the clasher because it was getting in the way. But anyways, that is pretty freaking ridiculous. That is absolutely absurd. The fact that it does 6.5, it hits all enemies around you, like one shot, it can hit, like... It does have everything. That basic attack is essentially top of the top, like regarding overall as a dungeon grinder. Heck, not even a dungeon grinder, it's overall in general. Like, in general, that's a top of the top. In terms of DPS, obviously it's not the highest. It's not nowhere even close. It's going to definitely be above average, but it's definitely not something that you're going to be using for insane high DPS physical damage character. But, you know, as a basic attack that you are definitely going to use to kill enemies really, really fast, that's definitely, that you cannot get any better than this. Like, this is really, really fast. It hits all enemies around you. It stuns. It has pretty alright in terms of range. It doesn't have the best range, but you know, it's more than enough. And you know, it can one shot. It essentially just what you want of a basic attack. This already has it. Obviously, it's tied to your ultimate ability, which is a time limit. But either way, that is insane. Insane. I cannot give any more praises to that basic attack. That basic attack is absolutely ridiculous. Anyways, now let's move on to the other abilities, which unfortunately all of the other abilities, I will say they are not as great. First of all, because they do take energy whenever you activate them, and secondly because you can generally just use basic attack and it will do essentially what all of these abilities are trying to do, but better. You might just use them for the fun of it, but in terms of just pure effectiveness, just go basic full 100% on this character and you will do just fine. Anyways, so the 3 abilities that you do have are going to be Eclipse Spear, Lunar Slam, and Blessing of the Moon. Eclipse Spear is going to be your throwing spear. So you already have this on the live server. Whenever you activate your grapple, you essentially just throw down your spear. And yeah, that's essentially going to be how it is. I do believe on the live server does 1 times damage multiplier. Here it is a spammable ability that does 5.5 times damage multiplier, which is, again, is very, very nice. It's a range ability that is spammable, and it has really good crowd control and does pretty hefty damage that can one-shot enemies. So you can use that to kill bosses just essentially immediately. Just press the ability, throw the spear, and everything dies. But at that point, just use basic attack. Basic attack is doing more damage, it's taking less energy, and it does have around the same crowd control. Just use basic attack. But yeah, Clear Spear, it is what it is. It's a fun ability, you can use it. The crowd control is really, really good. So the thing is, you can use it. I would much rather have a grapple on the lunacy when you're transformed, because it means that you can just move around incredibly quickly. So while transform, and you're not limited to throwing down the spear, and just limited the grapple only to regular non-transform. And I crashed. As I was saying, it is not limited to regular non-transform. God damn it, true. Regular non-transform Lunar Lancer, obviously. It should be better that if you are transformed, that you can just do it and just use it with both of them. But it is what it is. That's one thing that I would probably just do as a little bit of a change. Anyway, so that's going to end up being the spear. Next up is going to be the Lunar Slam, arguably one of the coolest abilities in the entire game, probably one of my favorite in terms of aesthetics, but unfortunately is the weakest out of the three abilities. In my own personal opinion, I do feel it's very, very gimmicky, and this is definitely the ability that you want to use just for fun. This ability is not going to be extremely good in terms of effectiveness, and there is going to be this ability right here. That ability right there, what it does is, as you saw, you generally just jump around, do a couple of little spin, and then you slam into the ground, dealing damage to all enemies around it. The damage is 10 times damage multiplier, so that is pretty high. And once you do slam an enemy, that enemy will be stunned for 4.5 seconds. It used to be 1.5 seconds, but that got increased to 4.5 seconds in the first patch. So yeah, 4.5 seconds of stun, which is a lot, but stun generally doesn't work on Titan level bosses, just works on regular enemies, and again, is pretty gimmicky. It does 10 times damage multiplier, which is very, very nice, and it does one shot essentially almost guaranteed, because 10 times damage is a lot, especially on a character that does have bonus physical damage. But that's about it. There's so many problems with this ability. First of all, you cannot move. Whenever you're just spinning around, you're just literally stuck in the air. It used to be the case that you would go forward instead of just jumping straight on. Now it's just jumping straight up. Not only that, like, the stun is really nice, but like I just mentioned, it doesn't work on Titan level bosses, so it doesn't work on Leviathans and Delta bosses. So that's just why, considering the amount of time that it does take to actually just activate the ability, then you can actually just clearly see that it's generally not as good. Even though the ability, I do find it to be very, very gimmicky, I still think it's a cool ability. Would I see it being changed for the better? It would have been nice if the ability had a shorter cooldown. It dealt slightly higher damage, because the amount of time that it does take, like, you can easily just make this ability do 15 times damage multiplier and it still won't be overpowered. Make it so that you can actually just control where you actually are landing instead of just going straight up and down. Obviously, like I just mentioned, shorter the cooldown, increase the damage, and even with all of that, I would probably just still say that that ability wouldn't be that great, and maybe just make it faster in terms of, like, if falls, just make it similar to like the Sugar Crash from the Candy Barbarian. So the Candy Barbarian Sugar Crash is the leap ability, so just make it somewhat similar, or pretty much exactly the same, more as an empowered version that looks pretty cool. Yeah, so that's going to be the Lunar Slam. It's alright an ability, pretty cool in terms of aesthetic, not very good in terms of effectiveness. And then lastly, it's going to be a very familiar ability, Blessing of the Moon. It's essentially the old ultimate ability, or the ultimate ability on the live server. Works exactly the same. The only thing is that it does increase damage. It's exactly the same. The meteorite is the same as the Blessing of the Moon when you're transformed in your lunacy. It does exactly the same thing. It gives the exact same stat. It does essentially everything, but the only thing is that it does more damage. So Blessing of the Moon on the live server, when you throw down the spear, it does 5 times damage multiplier. The AoE damage over time does, I do believe, 0.25 or something like that. And the meteorite, I do believe, does 1 times damage. I don't remember the one from the top of my head. I don't know if it does 1 or 0.75 times damage multiplier. It does pretty low damage, but with all of that, the damage gets increased from the initial impact to 10 times damage multiplier from 5. The damage over time gets increased to 1.5 to 0.25, so that gets increased by a lot. And the meteorite does, I do believe, 3.5 times damage multiplier from the multiplier before, which I don't remember, which again I would probably assume is around 1 times damage multiplier. So essentially, if you're familiar with already Blessing of the Moon on the live server, it's exactly the same. It's the same ability, and yeah, it does work exactly the same. It's still a very, very strong ability that you can throw down alongside just spamming your basic attack. I mean, if you want the prolonged DPS, I would probably just say just keep using your basic attack, because it does take 25 energy, and 25 energy is quite a lot of energy that it costs. I mean, you can just use it to increase your DPS. So you can do stuff like activate Blessing of the Moon, just keep activating basic attack. Yes, just essentially just keep doing like this, and it will just make the Lunar Lancer in terms of DPS definitely above average. But aside from all of that, I do feel that the Lunar Lancer was stuck in animation. Yeah, essentially that's going to be how the Lunar Lancer is just going to work out. If you're not in your ultimate ability, you essentially are going to just be attacking with your basic attack on all your abilities. Lunar Leap to increase your damage, one shot with essentially grapples only. And once you do get all of that, you get the full energy to transform yourself into the Lunacy, which you use that Lunacy to do your highest DPS. It's going to be another ultimate ability based character if you want the highest DPS, but the ultimate ability takes so long to actually get, but even though that the ultimate ability is pretty nice, especially coming from this basic attack that is absolutely ridiculous, even with this basic attack, I still do feel that this character needs some slight tweaking here and there. So yeah, you can do stuff like this with the Lunar Lancer in terms of momentum building on your ult, and it will one-shot even world bosses. Just like this, it will do this, the same thing to world bosses, which is absolutely ridiculous to think about. And 3-star bosses, just one attack and it will kill them. And it is really, really strong. But aside from that, like the Lunar Lancer still, I do feel that it has some problems here and there. I don't see it being way too effective. Now, even still, I do feel that it is a very fun character to use. I do say like the gimmick of just being able to just grapple around and just being able to jump around like crazy. Holy Jesus, that's a lot of pins. It's actually very, very effective. So yeah, let me just attack all of this. Like you can actually just go, let me just attack all of those pins, even though like doesn't really matter, but you can generally just activate your ultimate ability really, really fast with a lot of enemies, but this is not even a realistic thing that you're going to see. Yeah, another thing that you have definitely noticed is the basic attack. Of course, and combo still sends them flying. I don't know why, but hey, it is what it is. But yeah, essentially, if you do have a lot of enemies or stuff like those, if you do pull a lot of enemies, you can actually just keep hitting a lot of enemies at the same time, which will generate your ultimate ability really quickly, which, yeah, that's going to be essentially the only benefit that I see the ultimate ability being better than just being a regular cooldown based ult, but that's such an unlikely scenario that it's best for you to actually just have a regular cooldown based ult, in my own personal opinion. But yeah, that's going to be everything regarding the first version on the Lunar Lancer. And yeah, the Lunar Lancer just gets stuck in animation. It's still kind of buggy here and there, but hey, it is what it is. Overall, this character still is subject to change. Overall, the character, I do feel, is on a very interesting spot. It's not the most effective character out there unless you are in your old, which it becomes like a insane dungeon grinding character, more so than what it is right now. It is a very fun character to mess around with, especially for those who don't know how to maintain like a lot of movement speed buffs. This is going to be a very good character for those, because you actually have a pretty good speed momentum type ability with the grapple, and it will just be generally very effective. It's going to be very, very nice, especially if you're like almost in the ground and you can just do stuff like a short jump into a grapple, or a grapple into a somewhat elevated spot where you can just do stuff like this and just get sent flying really fast. But either way, that's going to be the general spot that I do feel that the Lunar Lancer is at. So let me know what you think of the Lunar Lancer in the comment section down below. Do you think it is going to be in a good spot, a bad spot? Again, keep in mind, subject to change. If any big changes just get added in into the Lunar Lancer, like any big changes, I will make a separate video about it and just talking about the character. But if all we get is just small changes, then I'll just leave it as it is. But yeah, just keep a watch on the forums where they actually do post all of these patch notes. And the last patch note was, I do believe, on the 1st of October. So we still don't know when this is going to drop on the live server. So stay tuned in the near future where this character might just drop out on the live server. Also, keep a watch on the Shadow's Eve event, which is going to drop this month as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if they drop this alongside Shadow's Eve on the PC. So stay tuned on that one. With all that being said, make sure to leave a like, subscribe for more content like this. Thank you once again for watching, and thank you for supporting us always. And I hope to see you guys next time. Stay care and keep on hunting, and messed up that outro so badly. See ya.